Battle through the firmament. Great world. Chapter 421 Confidence Setback. Boom! A dazzling light suddenly exploded, extremely bright under the night sky. A deafening roar broke the silence like sudden thunder. The fierce attack awakened the heavenly beasts sleeping soundly in the mountain forest, and low roars rose and fell continuously. Chi! The heavenly net sword's blade poured down like a ray of light in a heavy rain. Lindau held the Imperial Dragon Point blue spear and swept across the space. Like a poisonous snake, it eroded the area while attacking simultaneously with the sword rain filling the sky. The giant ape's red eyes were filled with blood. Although its strength had reached the Emperor cultivation level, it was still held back and restricted, unable to exert its true strength against this group of Monarch Emperor level students. Mahuyang and Lindau's attacks were extremely fierce, and the strength they displayed was no weaker than a peak of Monarch Emperor. The long spear moved like an azure dragon. Lindau's movement technique shifted strangely, and the tip of the spear struck the giant ape's abdomen. At the same time, the sword blades filling the sky arrived as promised, landing heavily on the giant ape's body. The spear carried blazing origin ki, causing the giant ape to involuntarily cry out in pain. All the fur on its body seemed on the verge of burning. Hua! The wind whistled. Flames lingered in Xiaoyan's eyes. Under the sole force of a perfect alien realm, he clearly saw the Black Panther's attack. The origin ki in his body violently activated, and with the strength of a Monarch Emperor, he completely defeated the Black Panther, leaving it covered in injuries. On the other side, Wu Shaoqi and Zhu Tianhou were also closing in, crushing the heavenly beast before them. Both of the true strengths far exceeded what they showed on the surface and naturally couldn't be compared to those who had just entered the Monarch Emperor level. Bang! The huge ape roared furiously, and the origin ki around its body exploded instantly. After dispersing the falling blades, Lindau's expression changed slightly. He was sent flying backward by the tremendous force. Holding the Imperial Dragon Point blue spear, he glided in the air for a long while before finally stopping. Although he had suffered some injuries, a bloody wound had already been pierced through the abdomen of the enormous ape. Black fresh blood poured out and continuously flowed down. Sure, Lindau's expression was serious. He shook the long spear in his hand and rushed forward like a soaring dragon. Mahuyang took a deep breath, and all the origin ki on his body surged wildly. He was about to use the third level of the Great Luo Heaven. Stop! The giant ape suddenly opened its mouth, gasping for breath as it looked at the two. Its voice was like thunder, shocking everyone. Their movements slowed involuntarily. The giant ape's roar caused some of the low-grade heavenly beasts and spirit beasts lying dormant in the surroundings to scatter in all directions. Clearly, they had been alarmed. Xiaoyan and the other two faced the three heavenly beasts and let out low roars simultaneously. Filled with unwillingness, they fled in panic. With their intelligence, they could naturally tell that they stood no chance against the people in front of them. All right, you have met the requirements. I will give this to you. The huge body shook slightly, and the giant ape shrank back to its original size. It took a few deep breaths and spoke in a gloomy tone. As it spoke, it curled its tail and threw the iron box in front of them. The giant ape crossed its arms over its chest, its expression gloomy. After its transformation, its strength was comparable to a human Emperor cultivation level. Logically, it shouldn't have had trouble defeating these few kids, but the speed of these two was just too fast. One attacked from a distance while the other attacked up close, exploiting its slow speed to constantly harass it. This kind of fighting style was truly depressing. Mahuyang landed from the sky and silently looked at the giant ape. His body moved like lightning as he quickly picked up the iron box. After that, he said in a deep voice, "Thank you." The flame in Xiaoyan's hand dissipated. He took a closer look at the giant ape. There was an obvious wound on its abdomen, caused by Lindau. "Don't thank me. I was only ordered to guard the battle command here. Now that the mission has been completed, I can leave." The giant ape waved its hand and spoke heavily. Then, It slowly turned around and looked at Mahuyang and Lindao. You two are pretty strong. Yunlo Academy has produced good seedlings. After saying that, it quickly left. Its huge body didn't stop in the dense forest, and in an instant, it disappeared into the night. So this is the battle command. I've finally gotten my hands on it. Wu Shaoqi went forward and took the iron box from Mahuyang. She took out a black token from the box and let out a sigh of relief. Xiaoyan's expression suddenly changed. He didn't want to talk too much with the others. He immediately rushed toward the depths of the dense forest. Due to the earlier battle, more and more heavenly beasts were gathering. If surrounded, escaping wouldn't be easy. Hearing this, Mahuyang and the others were slightly startled. Without hesitation, they quickly followed Xiaoyan and left the place. The previous battle had destroyed the trees here, and the ground was even cracked open. Dong! A few minutes after Xiaoyan and the rest left, a large white wolf rushed over like a gentle breeze. Its eyes revealed a trace of vicissitude. It looked at the ruined forest and mused softly. Its body trembled and turned into the appearance of a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's white hair was scattered. He slowly walked forward. The endless darkness did not block his eyes. He stopped beside a rock fragment, paused for a moment, and waved his hand. A few drops of black blood rose and gathered in his palm. Indeed, it is the blood of that old ape. A group of young fellows were able to injure him. Humph humph, it is all thanks to the orders of those fellows from Star Moon Island. The middle-aged man smiled lightly, his straight nose twitching slightly. His eyes immediately revealed a bloodthirsty light. Perfect, go and kill that old ape. After that, we'll deal with that group of students and train in Star Moon Island. We can only rely on our strength. If that's the case, after killing them, that group of fellows wouldn't be able to say anything. Human blood. The old ancestor will probably like it too. With a cold smile, the middle-aged man suddenly let out a cold snort. With one hand on his back, he looked behind him with a cold gaze. A substance like killing intent surged from his body, causing the few peak of Monarch Emperor heavenly beasts behind him to tremble. After hesitating, they silently left. The middle-aged man suddenly clenched his 5 fingers and crushed the few drops of blood. With a grin, his body flashed, and he quietly headed in the direction where the huge ape had left, moving like a gentle breeze. After running for an unknown amount of time in the dark dense forest, that cold feeling finally dissipated from Xiaoyan's senses. Only then did he stop, his face slightly pale. When the giant ape had given them the battle command, he had sensed something. That cold feeling was too frightening. He had the prestige power spell, and even the aura of a Monarch cultivation warrior couldn't suppress him. Yet, that cold feeling just now was an indescribable deterrent, even though it hadn't reached the Monarch cultivation level. What's wrong? Mahuyang's expression changed when he saw Xiaoyan's pale face, and he asked in a low voice. The water in Star Moon Island is really unfathomable. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Xiaoyan spoke softly with a bitter smile. Hearing this, everyone understood. Lindao's face was expressionless. Many of his clothes had been damaged in the battle, and his origin key consumption was intense. Without a word, he sat to the side and began adjusting his condition. Zhu Tianhou swallowed his saliva and sighed softly. He also sat cross-legged and began recovering his strength. Mahuyang did not speak but gestured for Wu Shaoqi to keep the battle command. He leaned against a large tree, looking at the dim moonlight on the horizon as he pondered carefully. Xiaoyan sat on the ground with Wu Shaoqi and closed his eyes. Whether it was his spiritual strength or origin key, he had exhausted quite a bit this time. Wu Shaoqi supported her chin and looked at the 4 people around her. She sighed helplessly. This was only the first night, and everyone's confidence had suffered such a huge blow. How were they going to survive these 2 months? Chapter N. Battle Through the Firmament. Great World. Chapter 422 Tianwu Origin I. When the first ray of sunlight shone through the layers of sparse leaves onto the ground, the night's silence finally dissipated. Zhu Tianhou rubbed his slightly sore eyes. Under Ma Huyang's arrangement, the group had taken turns on duty these past few days, and Zhu Tianhou had been assigned the first shift. Xiaoyan and the others were light sleepers. As sunlight poured down, they woke one after another. After last night's intense battle, they were quite exhausted. The eerie aura Xiaoyan had sensed left everyone on edge, and they had only fallen asleep near dawn. Their rest had been brief. We've obtained the battle command. According to that old man, there are only 10 battle commands in the entire mountain range. With the 2 academies forming teams across 8 rings, it's clear that one academy can obtain at most 3 battle commands. Therefore, there shouldn't be any more in this area. We should focus on traveling now. Ma Huyang seemed a natural leader. His thoughts were clear, and even Xiaoyan, with his rich experience, nodded in secret agreement. Let's try to reach the arena as soon as possible. Based on the north, south, east, and west directions, our opponents hardly include any students from Star Sky Academy. That's ideal for us. However, there are also very strong competitors from Glaze Academy and Southern Sky Academy. If we can reach the arena early, we can rest and wait for the others. Besides, with the battle command in hand, we're sure to win this battle. Ma Huyang suddenly threw a thin branch in his hand. With strong force, it embedded into a distant huge rock. He clapped his hands and laid out his thoughts clearly. All right. Lindao had no objections. Wu Shaoqi and Zhu Tianhou naturally deferred to Ma Huyang's authority. Xiaoyan nodded lightly. Ma Huyang had covered all the points he could think of. This guy was very smart. After the discussion, the group didn't linger. One by one, they rushed toward the mountain top. Having deviated from their original path while escaping last night, they now had to cross rivers and feel their way over rocks, step by step making their way upward, hoping to reach the arena a day earlier than the other 2 academies. On the west island of Star Moon Island, Shang Hao expressionlessly killed a monic spirit beast that suddenly appeared before him. He gently clenched his 5 fingers and looked at the 4 people resting nearby. Do you want to search for the battle command? He looked toward Shang Shaoshan, who was resting on a huge tree. Although Kang Feng was the strongest among the 5, he didn't concern himself with such matters. Thus, Xing Chanyu had put Shang Shaoshan in charge. Shang Shaoshan lived up to Xing Chanyu's expectations. His leadership was outstanding, and under his direction, the group had bypassed many dangers. While their strength made them fearless, avoiding trouble was still preferable. Battle command. Do you think we'll need that? Before Shang Shaoshan could speak, Shi Kanghai laughed loudly. Even if Glaze Academy or Southern Sky Academy has the battle command, if they want to pick a weak opponent, they'll have to choose me. Aside from Zhou Buyi, the rest of Southern Sky Academy can only fight me to a draw. Do you think Zhou Buyi will stay behind just to defeat me in the first round? You can't say that. Shang Shaoshan smiled. The competition rules are clear. The loser is eliminated in the arena battle, and the winner advances. If Zhou Buyi stays and chooses to fight you from a distance, you'll be eliminated. Even with Brother Kang, we'll definitely win, but the top 5 wouldn't be complete. As he spoke, Shang Shaoshan glanced at Kang Feng, who stood nearby. Kang Feng's black hair was messy, his eyes unfocused, as if their conversation had nothing to do with him. Wu Tiandu, you should have mastered many of the secret arts from the Heavenly Martial Pavilion, right? Shang Shaoshan retracted his gaze and spoke softly, startling Wu Tiandu. More or less. Wu Tiandu nodded, his expression shifting slightly as if he'd thought of something. You know about the secret arts of my Heavenly Martial Pavilion? Not exactly. Let's just say I know a thing or two. Shang Shaoshan narrowed his eyes, his expression unchanging. There's a type of secret art in the Heavenly Martial Pavilion called the 7 Styles of Heavenly Martial. It corresponds to the eyes, hands, legs, and body. One of those styles should allow the user to see through anything unusual. Shang Shaoshan spoke as if listing family treasures, bringing a flush to Wu Tiandu's handsome face. How could an outsider be so familiar with their techniques? Don't be agitated. When Shang Yu from the Shang clan was in the battle domain, he met a powerful expert from the Heavenly Martial Pavilion. That expert gave Big Brother Shang Yu some trouble. After a round of fighting, Big Brother Shang Yu grew slightly interested in the 8 styles of Heavenly Martial and asked a few questions. When he returned, he told the Shang clan elders, "I'm not talented. I only remember this much." He caused some trouble. Wu Tiandu's face twitched slightly. He knew how terrifying the 8 styles of Heavenly Martial could be when mastered. Yet in Shang Shaoshan's words, this so-called Big Brother Shang Yu made it sound effortless. Shang Hao and Shi Kanghai also turned their eyes to Wu Tiandu, clearly surprised that the Heavenly Martial Pavilion possessed such powerful secret arts. That's right, one of the 8 styles of Heavenly Martial is called the Origin Eye of Heavenly Martial. It allows the user to see the key of all kinds of items. Wu Tiandu fell silent for a moment before finally speaking. Good, I believe you've mastered it as well, Brother Wu. Shang Shaoshan clapped his hands and smiled. Seeing Wu Tiandu nod silently, Shang Shaoshan's smile widened. This would make finding the battle command much easier. Just as Shang Shaoshan was planning their next move, a deep voice suddenly spoke up, drawing everyone's attention. The 4 looked toward the speaker. It was Kang Feng, who hadn't said a word until now. Big Brother Shang Yu returned to the family 5 years ago. At that time, a monarch cultivation elder in the family sparred with Big Brother Chen. After about 10 exchanges, the elder admitted defeat. Shang Shaoshan's eyes lit up, and he said in a low voice, "At that time, Big Brother Shang Hao and I were both at the academy, so we didn't know the details. We only heard about it from other clan members." "All right, I understand." Kang Feng waved his hand and stood up leisurely. He sighed. The Kang and Shang clans are both among the 4 major families, but the name Shang Yu is one that surprised even the elders of our clan. Though I've never met him, I can only admit, as the young master of a major family, that I am not as good as him. Kang Feng rarely spoke so much at once. Shang Shaoshan and Shang Hao exchanged silent glances. They said nothing, but their hearts were stirred. The 4 families had always been rivals. For Kang Feng, the top youth of the Kang family, to say such things, did it mean the Shang clan was on the rise? In the depths of the dense forest, among ancient trees, a huge ape let out its final miserable cry, its face contorted in pain. The scarlet light in its eyes gradually faded. With an earth-shaking thud, the huge ape powerless collapsed to the ground. On its chest were 5 extremely sharp, mirror-smooth fingerprints. Through the broken chest, a white-haired middle-aged man held the giant ape's heart. He chuckled, glanced at the heart in his hand, and with one hand tore the white clothes on his body to shreds, letting out a low roar, like a wolf's howl, and slammed the huge heart against his own chest. Upon contact, the heart fused into his chest. The middle-aged man's eyes widened, filling with red light. His back arched as he roared fiercely, veins bulging on his forehead as if about to burst from his body. Boom! After an unknown length of time, the middle-aged man raised his sweat-covered head. The red light in his eyes vanished, and he returned to his original appearance. As expected, my strength has increased significantly. Next, it's those humans' turn. Wiping the remaining black blood from his hand, the middle-aged man sneered, coldly glanced at the giant ape's corpse, and then quietly disappeared. Chapter N. Battle Through the Firmament. Great World. Chapter 423. The First Ring. The peak of Star Moon Island was a vast plain. At this moment, there were already many experts gathered here. Old Man Chang and a few elders of Star Moon Town sat silently in a corner. The other experts all looked around curiously. This place was located at the highest point of Star Moon Island and was said to have a mysterious connection with the legendary heavens, which aroused everyone's curiosity. Strange, strange. The old man named Zhu Mo had his hands behind his back as he walked along the mountain peak. His brows were tightly knitted together as he occasionally glanced toward the few old men. Muttering to himself, his voice was full of doubt. "Teacher, what's wrong? Zhou Yuan followed closely behind Zhu Mo and asked softly, "This Star Moon Island is said to be a place connected to the heavens. Now that we're at the top of the mountain, why don't we feel anything strange?" Zhu Mo stopped in his tracks and looked down at the seemingly endless sea of trees, mumbling to himself. Zhou Yuan didn't say anything else after hearing this. He respectfully followed behind Zhu Mo, but his mind instantly became active. The heavens, this was the most mysterious place in the star field. Powerful warriors gathered there and commanded the entire star field. If one could enter it. At this moment, many people shared the same thought as Zhou Yuan. Xing Chanyu leaned against a huge rock and looked up, intentionally or unintentionally. The sky was clear for thousands of miles, and there was nothing special about it. Sighing lightly, Xing Chanyu shook his head helplessly. He had led the disciples of Star Sky Academy to participate in the 4 Academies competition for several years. This was the first time he had come to the peak of Star Moon Island, yet he hadn't discovered anything unusual. After pondering for a moment, Xing Chanyu suddenly turned his gaze to the forest below. His eyes were filled with deep thought. If the forbidden land of Star Moon Island wasn't at the peak, then it must be down there in the sea of trees. The mysterious place where the heavens connected must also be down there. Elder Su, long time no see. The leader of Glaze Academy, a mature beauty named Yi Xuan, walked to Su Jiang's side and looked at him. Her red lips parted slightly, and her eyes were as charming as silk. Seeing Yi Xuan, Su Jiang forced a smile and nodded. His mind was preoccupied with Xiaoyan and the other 4 from his group. He had no time to care about other matters. When he saw Yi Xuan approaching, he could only offer a dull smile. He had some impression of the mature woman before him. She had been the leader of Glaze Academy for 3 consecutive 4 Academies competitions. Elder Su, are you worried about the 5 students from Yunlo Academy? Yi Xuan gently combed her hair behind her ear. A fragrant breeze brushed past, and even Su Jiang couldn't help but take a deep breath. Isn't it always like this every year? Su Jiang smiled and looked in another direction. The charm of the woman before him was overwhelming. Even he felt slightly moved by her mature allure. Yeah, it's the same every year. Yi Xuan's beautiful eyes blinked. The breeze blew, causing her fitted dress to sway slightly. As her clothes fluttered, her ample chest seemed even more prominent and round. In this year's Yunlo Academy competition, the most outstanding one is that young man called Ma Huyang. Yi Xuan slowly stepped forward, closing the distance between her and Su Jiang. She raised her pretty face and spoke with a smile. I guess so. Su Jiang's eyelids twitched slightly. He nodded and replied in a deep voice. Sort of, he, it seems like the other 4 might have a dark horse. Yi Xuan heard this and smiled lightly. She keenly grasped the implication in Su Jiang's words. Su Jiang raised his head and looked into the distance where the sky and sea merged vaguely. His eyes narrowed slightly. He remained silent, thinking about what the great elder had said before they left, and also about Xiaoyan. What was this guy hiding? What kind of potential lay dormant in his bloodline that had yet to be unleashed? Let me tell you about Lu Li. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Su Jiang. Yi Xuan stood beside him. Su Jiang secretly looked over. Yi Xuan's face was like gentle jade, extremely delicate and exquisite. Her eyebrows twitched as she blinked. The moment she blinked, Su Jiang quickly averted his gaze. Although there are 5 girls in Glaze Academy this time, they're different from the previous years. Lu Li is the strongest among them. I estimate that she will not be any weaker than Zhou Buyi. As if she hadn't noticed Su Jiang's small movements, Yi Xuan's voice remained pleasant to the ear. Su Jiang listened quietly and didn't respond. Not being weaker than Zhou Buyi meant she was strong enough to compete with Ma Huyang. That level of strength was indeed impressive. What about the girl called Kiara? Seeing that Yi Xuan had stopped speaking, Su Jiang suddenly asked. You found out. Yi Xuan smiled gently at Su Jiang, her demeanor exceedingly flirtatious. In that instant, Everything around her seemed to pale in comparison. Su Jiang's heart stirred, then sank. He nodded silently. When he first saw that girl, he had a vague feeling that something was unusual about her. Kiara, that little girl is too shy. Even if she has some kind of hidden ability, she won't be able to use it effectively. Thinking of Kiara, Yi Xuan shook her head helplessly and sighed lightly. Su Jiang composed himself, lowered his gaze, and said nothing more. Whether it was Zhou Buyi or Xuan Qingyi, their strength shouldn't be much weaker than Mehuyang, let alone the 5 monstrous geniuses of Star Sky Academy. It would be great if we could get the battle command. A moment later, Su Jiang suddenly spoke, his eyes gleaming with a strange light. Battle command? It's not that easy. Every battle command has a peak Emperor cultivation heavenly beast guarding it. Moreover, in this vast sea of trees, we have to find it first. Yi Xuan smiled and replied in a gentle voice. Su Jiang nodded with a solemn expression. Old man Chang had mentioned this before they came up the mountain. His earlier thoughts had been too simplistic. Hidden dangers lurked everywhere in the boundless sea of trees. Not only did they have to be wary of the heavenly beasts hiding in the dense forest, but they also had to be cautious of groups of spirit beasts. About 10 days later, a vacuum suddenly appeared in front of the 5 of them. The hill ahead was completely bare, without a single tree. It stood out conspicuously in the midst of the dense forest. At the top of the hill was an open stretch of land. The 5 of them carefully stepped onto the hill. After 10 days of a heart-warming journey, even Xiaoyan felt a trace of fatigue. Here, Mehuyang walked at the front. He looked around vigilantly and then gazed ahead. About 100 meters away, the dense forest once again covered the area. It seemed as though this hill had been specially constructed. Hong! While the 5 was still in shock, a heavy thud sounded behind them as something landed on the ground. They instantly turned around. At the same time, their origin ki erupted, ready to attack in an instant. What appeared before them was a giant bear with wings on its back. On the bear's forehead was a closed vertical eye. Its fur was thick, heavy, and dark in color. "You're quite early." Seeing Xiaoyan and the others, the giant bear laughed and spoke in human language. It then dragged its huge body upright, hooked a finger, and said, "Come with me. Those old guys told us to wait for you here. Once you arrive, we'll bring you to the arena, supervise the competition, and leave afterward." As expected, Xiaoyan smiled helplessly in his heart. His previous guess had been correct. Hearing this, the others let out soft sighs of relief. They had thought they were about to face another battle. These days of high-intensity travel had already left them extremely tired. "Are there any other teams coming?" Mehuyang nodded and asked softly. "I don't know. The 4 of us are waiting in 4 different directions. There are 2 arenas in total. Who knows who we'll meet?" The giant bear spread out its furry paws and gave a simple, honest smile. Then, the wings on its back spread open as it said, "The restrictions here are much weaker. Come with me." After saying that, it soared into the sky and flew into the distance. Hearing this, their expressions brightened slightly. In the dense forest, the suppression on flight had been significant. Being able to fly again here was a pleasant surprise. With that thought, the 5 of them spread their bodies. The origin key wings on their backs flapped as they soared into the sky. Chapter End. Battle Through the Firmament. Great World. Chapter 424 Countermeasures. About 10 minutes later, under the lead of the giant bear, Xiaoyan and his group finally arrived at an open area. Although it was a hill, it was like a plain in the middle of the land. There was a large arena. "In a while, all of you will compete here. Each team will send 1 person. After which, the rest of you will continue to walk up. We will be the judges here. The loser will be sent down. The winner will be sent directly to the top of the mountain." The giant bear landed on the ground and pointed at the ring in the distance with a rough voice. "Got it." As the leader of the 5, Mehuyang nodded. He glanced at the crowd, and all of them sat down on the same spot to rest. This was the advantage of being the first to reach the arena. They would be able to obtain more rest. We have the battle command. When the time comes, no matter who our opponent is, we only need Senior Mu or Senior Lin to make a move and choose the weakest one on the opposite side. That way, we can easily win, Wu Shaoqi said excitedly. Beside her, a trace of joy flashed across Zhu Tianho's eyes. This way, they would be able to preserve more combat strength for Yunlo Academy. On the side, the giant bear didn't say anything when it saw the 5 of them starting to rest. Its huge body moved and came to a huge rock. It laid down comfortably and basked in the sun. Xiaoyan, what do you think? Ma Huyang smiled lightly and looked at the silent Xiaoyan. Zhu Tianho and Wu Shaoqi had the same thought. Lin Dao was not interested in this kind of thing, so Ma Huyang could only ask Xiaoyan. I don't know. Shaking his head, Xiaoyan spoke straightforwardly. His blunt words made Ma Huyang slightly stunned. His idea was not to use the battle command first, but to wait until the critical moment before using it. Perhaps it could achieve unexpected results. Now that Xiaoyan had answered, he didn't know what to say. We don't even know who our opponent is. It's too early to make a decision now. Of course, with the battle command, the pressure on us will be much smaller. No matter who our opponent is, we can at least calm down. You're right. Ma Huyang nodded and looked at the crowd with his sharp eyes. You all know that if we win, we can reach the top of the mountain. This way, we have 2 options. After saying that, Ma Huyang stretched out a finger and said, the first way is to preserve our strongest combat strength. We can use the advantage of the battle command to let the strongest of us fight against the weakest of our opponents. After winning, we can go straight to the top of the mountain and get enough rest. We can use the strongest formation to fight. The second method is to fight between the flags and drums. The strength of both sides is almost the same. This way, although the chances of winning are only half, the benefits are the greatest. We will eliminate the opponent and preserve our combat strength. As Ma Huyang spoke, he stretched out 2 fingers. After he finished speaking, he said in a deep voice, which of these 2 methods will everyone approve of? I don't think it's good. Although both methods have their own strengths, their weaknesses are too obvious. Wu Shaoqi was the first to react and lightly shook her head. That's right. Although the first method can retain the strongest combat strength, at the same time, the final result won't have much of an advantage over Yunlo Academy. Zhu Tianho's voice was heavy as he spoke his thoughts. His mouth was slightly bitter. Among the 5 of them, there was no need to think too much about who was strong and who was weak. Although this method of sacrificing them made him feel helpless, there was nothing he could do about it. The outcome of the second kind of collision is determined by a few moves. The risk is too great. Are you sure Yunlo Academy can afford to take the risk? Lin Dao, who had been silent the whole time, raised his head and said word by word. Who? Ma Huyang let out a soft breath and lowered his gaze. He also felt a little helpless. The advantages and disadvantages of these 2 methods were split in half. If he wanted to succeed with 100% certainty, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven. Besides, if it wasn't for you guys, I don't even know if I would have been able to reach the arena safely. If I encountered any danger, wouldn't I just let my opponent pass? Wu Shaoqi also thought of many things and smiled helplessly. Then, what other methods do you guys have? Ma Huyang's eyes sparkled as he analyzed the pros and cons of the 2 methods. Then he looked at the crowd and said with a heavy expression. Wu Shaoqi pouted and looked at Zhu Tianho and Lin Dao who were standing beside her. She saw that both of them were silent and had nothing to say. Xiaoyan, what about you? After walking around for a long time, Ma Huyang looked at Xiaoyan again. After listening to the opinions of Wu Shaoqi and the other 2, Ma Huyang also felt a trace of hesitation toward these 2 methods. Xiaoyan did not say anything. He turned his head to look at the distant sky. He paused for a moment and said softly, "It's coming. It's coming." Ma Huyang was stunned when he heard that. He looked at the distant horizon and saw a faint black shadow rushing toward them. The opponent is here. Lin Dao stood up from the ground. His 5 fingers were tightly clenched, and the blood in his body was flowing at a rapid speed. Beside him, Wu Shaoqi and Zhu Tianhou also jumped up. They looked into the distance with solemn expressions. Behind the black shadow were 5 tiny black dots. They did not know which academy they came from. I don't have any good ideas either. Let's see who the opponent this time will be. Xiaoyan smiled helplessly. He stood beside Ma Huyang and said softly. All the ideas that he had racked his brain for were ultimately insufficient in terms of strength. While Xiaoyan and the others were talking, 6 black figures had already arrived quickly. The leader was a 4-winged tiger-shaped heavenly beast. On its snow-white body was a tiger-shaped heavenly beast with 4 wings on its back. It was extremely eye-catching. It's Blaze Academy. Ma Huyang's eyes sparkled when he saw the 5 girls following behind the tiger-shaped heavenly beast, and he said in a soft voice. Su. While Ma Huyang was sighing, the tiger-shaped heavenly beast had already landed on the ground. A powerful wind blew over, causing the huge rocks not far away to fly away. Da. The 5 women also landed on the ground at the same time. The 5 women with different styles were like 5 golden flowers. Just by standing there, a faint fragrance was emitted. I thought I would encounter Star Sky Academy. This is a pleasant surprise. The leading girl was Xuan Qingyi. When she saw Ma Huyang and the other 3, her beautiful eyes lit up and she spoke in a gentle voice. What, do you think we are pushovers? When Xiaoyan heard this, he laughed lightly and said in a cold voice. Ma Huyang stood at the front with the same cold expression. Xuan Qingyi's words made him extremely unhappy. On the side, Lin Dao's expression did not change at all. Zhu Tianhou and Wu Shaoqi, on the other hand, could also hear the implied meaning of Xuan Qingyi's words. Both of their faces turned ashen. Isn't that so? Xuan Qingyi smiled proudly. She crossed her arms over her chest and tilted her head to look at Xiaoyan. She smiled, but her beautiful eyes were filled with contempt. A first-grade monarch emperor. Even if you have the strength to fight 5 first-grade monarch emperors, it doesn't seem like you have the right to speak here. As she spoke, Xuan Qingyi looked at Ma Huyang with a stunning smile on her face. Ma Huyang, your teammate is really arrogant. Just as Xuan Qingyi was talking, a small hand suddenly stretched out and gently pulled Xuan Qingyi's clothes. After which, Kiara's weak voice was heard, Qingyi, don't say that. When Xuan Qingyi heard this, a trace of slyness flashed across her beautiful eyes as she looked at Kiara. She smiled lightly and did not speak. Her gaze was still looking at Ma Huyang indifferently, but her heart was extremely perturbed. She was also gambling. Since that morning when Kiara told her about the changes in the East, she had been paying extra attention to this matter, and she suspected that the 5 people from Yunlo might have gotten the battle command. Now that she said so, she wanted to urge Ma Huyang and the others to use it. It would be great if they didn't have the battle command. I'm so angry. I'll make you all cry later. Wu Shaoqi's pretty face turned red, and she did not have any good impression of this extremely beautiful woman in front of her. Her lily-white hands moved and were about to take out the battle command. Just as Wu Shaoqi moved, Xiaoyan had already swiftly made his move. He grabbed the former's wrist and gently shook his head, indicating that she should not take it out. Seeing this, Wu Shaoqi snorted angrily and turned her head away from Xuan Qingyi. Enough of your nonsense. Now, can we compete? Ma Huyang coldly snorted. He had also seen Xiaoyan's actions. He merely mused for a moment before he understood the latter's thoughts. Immediately, he laughed softly in his heart. He looked at Xuan Qingyi and spoke with a cold expression. Chapter N. Battle Through the Firmament. Great World. Chapter 425. Participants. Such a big tone. Xuan Qingyi was not angered by his words. Her eyes were like water as she took a deep look at Ma Huyang, the corner of her mouth lifting slightly. Since you arrived first, why don't you send someone up first? Xuan Qingyi smiled lightly. Her lips were red, her teeth white, and her bright, beautiful smile and alluring figure hinted at a future beauty capable of causing chaos in empires and among the people. Everyone knows that whichever side fights first holds the advantage. Neither of us will send someone first. How about we both carve the name of our fighter onto a stone at the same time and reveal them together, with the two lords here as witnesses? Mahyuyang saw right through Xuan Qingyi's thoughts. He let out a cold laugh and spoke after a moment's hesitation. The giant bear and the snow-white tiger-shaped heavenly beast naturally had no objections. They laughed and agreed. Xuan Qingyi's eyes lit up. She knew she wouldn't be able to trick Mahyuyang again. She nodded lightly and turned to discuss quietly with the other four. While the 5 from Glaze Academy were conferring, Xiaoyan and the others all looked to Mahyuyang. As the leader of the academy, he naturally had to take charge in this matter. Xiaoyan, do you not plan to use the battle command? Mahyuyang was silent for a moment before looking at Xiaoyan. He remembered clearly the scene when Xiaoyan had stopped Wu Shaoqi. The battle command isn't easy to obtain. It must be used where it most benefits the academy. Facing Glaze Academy now hasn't reached the point where we need to use it. Xiaoyan nodded and shared his thoughts in a low voice. Moreover, the 2 strategies Senior Mu proposed earlier have surely been considered by Glaze Academy as well. Whether it's preserving our strongest combat power or relying on luck to boost strength, both carry significant disadvantages. After a pause, Xiaoyan's eyes gleamed with intensity. We are hesitating on this point. The other side must be hesitating too. Frankly, deciding how to deploy our team members is also a battle of psychology. What exactly are you trying to say? Zhu Tianhou frowned. Xiaoyan had been talking for a while without getting to the point. Mahyuyang, standing to the side, remained silent, his eyes fixed intently on Xiaoyan. This is our first time fighting in this arena. The outcome of the first match will definitely affect morale. Senior Mu, if you were Xuan Qingyi, who would you send to fight this first match? Xiaoyan suddenly looked at Mahyuyang and asked in a low voice. I would arrange for the student whose strength is second only to mine in the team. Mahyuyang frowned, hesitating for a moment as he considered Xiaoyan's question. This was the first match. Ideally, he would eliminate one of the opponent's key players. Yes, sending someone strong increases the chance of winning, but it also means we temporarily lose a significant portion of our combat strength. If we meet again later in the competition, we could suffer greatly. But if we send someone weaker, we permanently lose a helper, which would hugely impact the final battle at the mountain peak. Wu Shaoqi's eyes lit up as she suddenly understood. Both methods are very risky. The most common approach is what you said before, a battle between fighters of similar strength. Lin Dao pursed his lips, finally grasping the situation. That's right. However, if I were Xuan Qingyi, I would probably send someone of middling strength. Xiaoyan smiled faintly and said in a deep voice. You mean? Mahyuyang paused, seeming to understand. In the first match, no one is sure of the outcome. At a time like this, you need a scout, and the middle-ranked member is the best choice. If we win, all the better. If we lose, the impact wouldn't be too great. So, Mahyuyang's eyes sparkled. He had already grasped what Xiaoyan implied. So, since they are willing to play along, we'll learn from them. We don't know what we'll encounter next. Therefore, we should also send someone of middling strength. As he spoke, Xiaoyan had already given his opinion. Let me do it. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Dao suddenly spoke up, volunteering. No, Yunlo Academy is the weakest among the 4 courtyards. If we encounter Star Sky Academy, Senior Mu will surely have to step in. If both of you are gone, do we even need to continue the competition? Xiaoyan's expression was solemn as he rejected the offer. Xiaoyan is right. You still can't make a move. Mahyuyang shook his head and refused. Every decision had to be made carefully. A single misstep could mean losing everything. Hearing this, Lin Dao's brows furrowed in struggle, but he said nothing more. Why don't I do it? Just as Wu Shaoqi was about to speak, Zhu Tianhou suddenly smiled and looked at the group. In terms of pure strength, I'm probably the weakest. But with the ability of the sacred spirit fire body, it's also impossible for the other side to win easily. Ma Huyang frowned when he saw this. His original intention was to have Wu Shaoqi stay. Now that Zhu Tianhou had volunteered, he wasn't sure what to say. I think it's possible. Xiaoyan suddenly smiled and supported Zhu Tianhou's request. He was very clear about the latter's strength. If Zhu Tianhou went all out, even he would feel a sense of trepidation. Senior Wu, your control over the green flame isn't very proficient yet. Take the time to practice more and try to master it before the mountain peak. This will be beneficial for the final battle. Whether you win or lose this match, you won't be able to continue practicing afterward. Seeing Wu Shaoqi's bitter expression, Xiaoyan said in a deep voice. She could be considered a trump card and shouldn't be wasted lightly. All right. Hearing this, the dissatisfaction on Wu Shaoqi's face faded. It was true that her control over the green fiery flame was not yet mature and required more training. Have you chosen yet? A group of big men, what a waste of time. While they were discussing, Xuan Qingyi's voice suddenly came from afar, interrupting them. All right, it's you. After listening to Xiaoyan's analysis, Ma Huyang nodded in tacit agreement. He had no better idea. Do your best. Xiaoyan looked at Zhu Tianhou, his eyes full of encouragement. I won't be eliminated. At the very least, I don't need to see you being defeated by others. Zhu Tianhou smiled, but his eyes were filled with seriousness. The candidate has been decided. Ma Huyang also turned around. He bent down, picked up a piece of rock, and let his origin key flow through his finger. His fingertip was like a sword, instantly carving Zhu Tianhou's name onto the rock. On the other side, Xuan Qingyi's pretty face was solemn. She gently held a piece of rock and also engraved the name of the student who would fight. The two acted simultaneously. The rocks were thrown out like lightning and exchanged hands. Su Yuhan, Zhu Tianhou. Two names sounded out across the arena at the same time. In the next moment, a girl in purple flew out from the Glaze Academy team and instantly stood on the arena. On the arena, the girl's appearance was extremely beautiful. Her name was Su Yuhan. She was a student at Glaze Academy whose strength was second only to Xuan Qingyi and Chen Lu. The force behind her was also considered a colossus in the star domain. Although it couldn't compare to the four great families, it was on par with the Xuandu mountain that Xuan Qingyi belonged to. Su Yuhan was dressed in a purple dress. Her long hair was coiled up, and she had a beauty mark at the corner of her mouth. Her red lips were gently shut, giving her an extremely flirtatious appearance. Zhu Tianhou's figure moved, flying up and landing on the arena. He looked at Su Yuhan with an expressionless face. Seeing Zhu Tianhou come up, Su Yuhan smiled lightly, a move that was extremely captivating. Little big brother, I await your guidance. As she spoke, she already assumed a battle stance. I don't deserve it. Zhu Tianhou gave a slight nod, but his eyes were incomparably solemn. The beautiful lady before him actually gave him an inexplicable sense of pressure. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.